Good evening. Good evening. Hi. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us this evening. My name is Adam Jackson. I'm the Developer Relations Program Manager here in London, and I'm really proud that we're hosting tonight's Afterwork event here at Microsoft Reactor. For those who haven't been before, Microsoft Reactor is our space in London for startup and developer communities. We host meetups, we host training events here. We have a meetup group. If you aren't already a member, please join it. You'll find out all of the startup and tech events that we've got coming up. Now, tonight we've got a wonderful lineup of people. Before I introduce everyone, I'd love to just say thanks to all the people that made this night possible, all the people on here. I'm not going to go through everyone, but let's just have a round of applause for all of the folks that have made tonight possible. Okay, so this evening we're going to start off with some opening words. First of all, and she's not on here, I'm really sorry, but Amali always is our Managing Director of Microsoft for Startups in London. She joined us around six months ago? 6 months today. Wow, congratulations. Prior to joining us here at Microsoft, she was the CEO at Code First Girl, so we're really, really proud to have her here. And then Charlotte Yarconi, who's our Corporate Vice President of Commerce and Ecosystems, is going to say a few words. And then we're going to get into a few interviews with some really fabulous technical co-founders from the London startup ecosystem. So we've got Janet, who's going to join us from X8. She's the COO there. We've also got Manjit, who's the co-founder and CTO of Avora. And then we've got Maxim, who is the CTO of Casual Lens. And then finishing off this evening, we'll have a chat between Ruth Yakubu and Simona Coton, and they're going to talk about what's next in AI. So I'm going to introduce Amali, who's going to join us in a second. But first of all, we're going to take a look at a few video highlights.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amali Dialvis. I'm the Managing Director of Microsoft for Startups. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you here today. You are here to do amazing things. You are here because you are driving innovative, leading startup and scale-ups across Europe. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay at the back there? I've been down with a little bit of a cold, so I'm a little bit gruff, but it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you here today. As Adam very kindly introduced, my name is Amali Dialvis. I'm the Managing Director of Microsoft for Startups. Welcome to the family. It is really great to have you in our house. We do lots of really exciting things here. I know we don't have a huge amount of time as far as sort of sharing, but would love to just share a few words as far as what we do. We're here as Microsoft for Startups to just help you do more amazing things. We have some amazing communities, some amazing companies based in the UK, based in London. And we're focused really on helping those companies to accelerate your business, right? So this is how can we support you, how can we support you grow, how can we support you with your tech, your development, and also help you with your customers. So really thinking about the sales side of things as well. We do have a number of programs which we run, which are around either helping you with your acceleration of your business as far as startups and scale-ups. If you check out our website here, and if I just move to one side, you'll be able to see it, aka.ms/MSFT, so Microsoft for Startups. You can find a little bit more information about that. One of the programs we run, which is our Microsoft for Startups offer, which is our standard offer, is actually applicable all year round. So if any of you are running software, B2B businesses, please do go check it out. We would love to have a further conversation with you about that. As Adam mentioned, we've got some really amazing speakers tonight, and it is my great pleasure to be welcoming Charlotte Yarconi, who is our Corporate VP for our Cloud and AI side of the business. Charlotte has flown in especially to celebrate with us here today, as well as with the Ignite tour kicking off. So if I could give a round of applause, please, Charlotte. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, hello, hello. What a great crowd. I have to ask, How many of you, is this your first time here at the Reactor? Would you mind raising your hands? Wow, that's super cool. Thanks for coming. We're happy to have you here, and hopefully we'll make it worth your time tonight. That's our goal and our objective. It's interesting. We were reflecting. I was with the team earlier today, and it's been about 2 years since we opened up this facility, and I think we've been evolving it to address and meet the needs of the community as we go. And it does start with developers, and startups are such an important part of that on behalf of us at Microsoft. You know, the innovations that are coming for tomorrow, the new ways to solve either existing problems or even think about new problems, this is what the startup community represents for us. And I will tell you, from my background, I've been CEO of a startup. I've actually been involved with startups for over 25 years. And it's been very interesting to me to watch markets in certain regions mature, to watch all the successes, to actually learn from all the failures. But it is such an important ecosystem, and we're really happy that you're here and can be growing with us wherever we can help you. You know, when we think about the UK, it was also fascinating to me just reflecting on the last year, particularly in the UK. You know, over £9 billion were spent in funding for startups by VCs. That's an amazing number for such a small geographical footprint. It just represents a tremendous amount of innovation. And then when you think about where does that funding go into startups, is it for brand new ideas, or is it for actually scaling innovations that have been thought of where people are trying to actually build a business and a monetization model and a go-forward plan? And about 80% of that funding is actually focused on that scaling effort, which is also a fascinating statistic for me. You know, at Microsoft, we spend a lot of time thinking about how can we help. It's not how do we own, how do we drive. It's about how can we help, because this is, again, a very important ecosystem for us. And so, you know, we made a distinct decision actually about the time that we opened up this reactor and we spent a lot of time talking to the startups that we had relationships with really around the globe. And one of the things that we heard a lot from the startups were, you know, we actually have really good tech. Most of us have really good engineers. Where we really need help is in our go-to-market. It's in our sales and distribution. And you, Microsoft, are actually known for that. You're known for having a very rich partner ecosystem. You're known for having a very large set of enterprise customers. We need access to that. We need help with that. And hence why we started focusing on not just helping you onboard to our technologies and our platforms, excuse me, but also how do we help you get your product to market? And a big part of our program is focused around that. And it's not just focused on giving you credits and wishing you well and being on your way. It's actually helping you be successful. So I encourage you guys, beyond what Amali just shared with you in terms of ways to connect with us, do connect with folks in the room when you have a chance, if you have the ability to network after the discussions tonight, because ultimately we want to invest in your success, because we believe by doing that, it'll be a better ecosystem for all of us. And so we take that mission very seriously, and I encourage all you guys to reach out and tell us where we can be helping you more. So with that was really what I wanted to communicate. I'm really excited you're all here, and looking forward to the conversations we get to have tonight. So, no further ado, I think Simona, you are up next. Oh, sorry, Amali's coming back next. There you go, Interactive.
Our discussion part of the evening now. And if I can call to the stage, please, one of the companies who we have been working with and doing some really, really exciting stuff. So Janet Shah Rajan, who's the COO of Exate. Janet, can we call you to the stage, please? Amazing. Come join. Thank you. So Janet, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, as a caveat, based on the event description, and a caveat and an apology, I'm not Sonal. Sonal's the CTO and co-founder of the business, and she's waving. Give us a wave. Yep. She's the CTO and co-founder of the business and unfortunately has laryngitis, so I am speaking on her behalf as a non-technical member of the business.
I did have a vision, actually, because I'm also suffering a little bit of Sonal and I kind of sharing strepsils in between sort of discussions and stuff, but it's all good, it's all good. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And then on me, myself, I've actually just joined as COO last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I've been engaged with X8 for the past few months after stepping out of my role in venture capital, where I was a later stage investor in B2B software, fintech, and digital health.
Super exciting. That's really great. Really, really interested to hear more about X8 as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you folks do? And I guess thinking about I'd really like to explore, I guess, some of the challenges around your business and the environment that you're operating in as well. But tell me about X8.
Sure. So at its core, X8 protects production data. So any data that is in production that needs protection, either internally or when sharing externally, we can do it. The way we think about ourselves in terms of a tagline is that we're the ink bomb for data.
Okay.
If your data gets into the wrong hands, just like cash, when it used to move around from say, the bank to a vault, and it had those little bombs in it to ink detonate, we can do that on data. So where cash was once currency, we believe data is the new digital currency. It's value in storage format. And we can detonate on that level and destroy the data if it got in the wrong hands.
And I think that's really interesting because, like you said, data has become a currency in itself, right? And when you're thinking about how that data is used, there's probably a sort of a philosophical opposition, isn't there, between doing something which allows just good use of the data versus thinking about the access to that data, what you can do with that, the security, the safety, and how that data is transferred. Could you, I guess, talk a little bit more to that and what kind of trends you're seeing within that sort of landscape in how companies are looking at data privacy and how that kind of works with the function of what you want the data to perform to?
Yeah, sure. And at its core, it's all driven by the value that data can provide and everyone wanting to be data-driven. But to be data-driven, you need to unlock certain things. And one of those hurdles happens to be data privacy. With that, who can actually unlock data for you and who do you want to partner with? So supposing you're a big corporate, you have very valuable data sets, you want to actually interact perhaps with tech-first companies, startups if you will, who can help you. But do you trust sharing of the data? Is the counterparty ethical, accountable, trustworthy? How do you prove that? How do you demonstrate that? What infrastructure do you have in place to actually transact on that data level? And that's where data privacy as a sector really comes in. Yeah,
and I know, pretty much I think almost everyone in this room, anyone who's sort of operating with a startup, you have those discussions around GDPR and how do you effectively manage your data. Exactly. What do you think are the big challenges for companies working in this space? What is preventing them from doing this in a right way, which both fits their business as well as supports the people who provide the data?
Yeah, when we were looking at the market in general, one of our channel partners actually came across a statistic for us that said that 8% of fintech startups, for example, don't consider data privacy as important, or they haven't thought about it. And you can kind of understand, actually, yes, it might sound kind of obvious now, why not? But actually, when you're building your startup, when you're thinking about how you can be value add, you're thinking about what you are good at. And we're a data privacy company. We don't build our own CRM or our own email. We are good at that. We're going to leverage other technologies to do other things for us. So the same way, startups also need to engage a data privacy tool much as they would have email or CRM.
Yeah. And how do you, and I think, it's always one of those challenges with startups is that, and as a former founder, a former entrepreneur myself, when does it matter? When is it something that you should worry about, and when do you start building this in? And I guess thinking about your company and how you support your clients to sort of build in these best practices, what would you usually recommend to companies? When do you make that journey?
So I think you normally identify the need almost too late. You realize when you're interacting with a corporate who says, oh, well, we can't actually give you any sandbox data, or we can't give you production data. So usually when you have that first hurdle, that's when you realize, unfortunately. And that's the moment where you say, okay, well, we want exate to be more than a software. In our case, we want it to be a verb. You almost want to exate that data and know that you can now transact to unlock it in the first place. So I think in terms of advice, I would say have that open dialogue with whoever you're transacting with as to why they feel like their data is locked, why they feel like maybe accountability is not there or trust is not there, and build that trust and say, okay, we will put the measures in place to do this. And it has to be a two-way transaction. You also need the counterparty to behave the same way. You also want their trust. You also want them to be accountable for, their compliance with GDPR, for example, their compliance with the new coming CCPA, depending on jurisdiction. So I think every party in the transaction needs to do their bit.
Yeah.
But as long as it's a dialogue to start with, that's the best advice we can give. Start the dialogue and then put the infrastructure in place.
And could you, I think that dialogue is really critical because, I guess for you, it's really understanding how that client wants to make use of that data, and then how can you support them to do what they need to do as a business, whilst also being, their trusted advisor to how to do this well.
Yep.
And when you're thinking about, I guess, some of those use cases, and what are the problems that customers come to you with? What are the kind of typical ways that they'll make use of exate, or what are the challenges that you're helping them to resolve?
So one of the most common use cases we have is that people want to test with production data.
Yeah.
They've had a go at synthetic data, and they've taken a view, which we obviously agree with, that they want to use production data, but they don't know how. They don't know how to protect it, mask it, anonymize it in the first place, and that's where we come in. Another really interesting use case for us is AI enablement.
Okay.
A lot of people want to use production data into their algorithms to make them more accurate, but they don't know how to go about it in that use case. And also ethics comes in there. Do you actually have the granular level permissions to use that production data for that use case? So those are a couple of really interesting use cases. And then in general, protection of production data in the SaaS environment, et cetera. We can do it all.
Amazing. And do you, and I guess this is going sort of a little bit off piece, but from a sort of a discussion standpoint, when you're having those discussions with your clients, they must be very grateful to get that kind of guidance as far as, what can we do, what's the best practice around things. Are there any things which are really hard for the businesses that you work with to do? What are the biggest challenges that you're sort of, helping them to kind of overcome, which are real business challenges?
Yeah, I think a lot of product owners or P&L managers who want to use data to become this data-driven, extremely profitable unit, they want to get permissions for the data in the first place. They go to their IT person thinks of GDPR, and then they say, nope. And then they go back, and then they think, okay, well, how can I go about this? Maybe I go one level above, maybe I go to the CISO, maybe I go to the CTO. Who do I go to? So figuring out how they're going to work internally to actually get this going, and who's responsible, who owns the key to unlock the data in the first place, and who should it be going forward. That's often a challenge. Once that's done, you find that conversation a lot easier. Another challenge, I think, is that some people don't know that they can do this.
Right.
Sometimes you find that they think, oh, well, we just can't solve this without breaching GDPR or doing something underhand. So a lot of our job is educating people on the options that they really do have.
Yeah, and I think that's always that counterbalance, isn't it, between, it can be a very frightening thing. If it's not something you're familiar with, the temptation in some cases might be to just say, we can't do it.
Especially when, the downside is, clearly very big.
Yeah. And I think especially for small companies particularly, the prospect of getting in, hot water with the ICO or something like that is probably pretty terrifying. So, trying to figure out. If you were to give some tips to any of those folks here who maybe, have been thinking about this, or maybe are thinking how to improve their sort of practices, how do they get started? When should they come and have a chat to you? And, what are the kind of things that they could start thinking about which might be helpful to them?
I think once you start to identify what your use case is for data privacy, exactly where your blockages are, what you want to unlock, once you know that, it's much easier to have a conversation.
Yeah.
You almost have to experience the pain to understand exactly what you need to unlock before thinking, oh, I just want to, unlock everything, because that's going in the completely opposite direction. So you have to have a really good understanding of your databases, of what the private information is, what needs to be anonymized, to be able to be productive with the tool.
Amazing. Lastly, just as we're kind of wrapping up, I would love to just hear a bit more about what Exate have planned. So 2020, big year, I'm sure lots of sort of growth. What does the platform do today? What are your future plans as far as the tools and the services? And where do you see, I guess, the opportunities?
Yeah, so everything we've discussed right now, our platform does that. It's actually ready to go, and we're really proud of it, what we've done with pretty humble resources. And we're currently fundraising.
Amazing. I always love an ask, by the way.
We're currently fundraising, but we have a really exciting hiring plan to bring in more developers who are passionate about what we do, to build out new functionality. We think of ourselves as an extendable platform, so we want to add in new tools. So we work on advanced encryption and sharding, but we want to add in differential privacy because people are increasingly talking about it. We want to add in homomorphic encryption. We want to add in lots of optionality for our customer base to really pick and choose exactly how they want things to be done. And we just want to go out there and educate the market on their opportunities and what they can do. I think this is a big year for us. We've really scaled up the management team. And there's a lot to go for in 2020.
Amazing. And just as we sort of wrap up, last question. You mentioned your fundraising, so anyone who's in the investment space and interested, do come and have a word. Anyone else who you want to speak to who might be in this room?
We want to speak to people who are doing interesting things, who maybe have experienced the challenge of having their data locked and want to figure out how to unlock it. And also, we're hiring on the tech side, so come speak to us if you think what we're doing is interesting. We love sharp minds who are keen and enthusiastic about data privacy, so look forward to hopefully having some people coming to us on the developer side as well.
Amazing. Janet, thank you so much.
Thanks
Absolutely
so much, Molly.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. Thank you very much to Exate. Have a little dance in between as well. Our next founder who's going to join us, or CTO who's going to join us, is Manjit Jahal, coming from a question. Yeah, I'm sure.
Related to conversation.
Oh, right, yeah.
Just that when I set up my Microsoft Azure account, it was in West Europe, Dublin. And in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to Brexit. And all my data's in Dublin. Related to their conversation, what is the strategy to address that now?
Oh, big questions. I think we'd need to have a further chat. We've got absolutely the right people to be able to either help you or to find the right people. If we could start with our advocacy team here, we're going to have a chat about it. All good. Yeah.
Hi, just a question regarding your presentation of data encryption. What about algorithms or computer programs written in any language like Python, C++, or Fortran? Do you have a way of protecting that?
I'll try and answer that with my voice as it is.
Okay, thank you.
It's turned on.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good. The way that we built it, it's the data and the rules around it and the consent and all of those things are tagged to the data itself. We're agnostic. The data itself knows how to be protected and it flows through in that manner.
Amazing. Thank you very, very much. I know we're going to have a little bit of time for questions and stuff, I think probably afterwards, but please do feel free to collar any of the founders, any of the CTOs who are here tonight as well. I know that they'd be very happy to have a chat. Next up is Manjit Jahal, who's our CTO at Avora. So welcome, Manjit. Thank you very much for joining us, Manjit.
Thank you for having
you
me.
folks are part of our scale-up cohort as well.
That's
so
right,
it's
yeah.
an absolute pleasure. And I know we spotted you, I think, in our little intro video from
Yeah, I
when we
saw
had our
that.
launch event and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So Manjit, give us a little bit of background. Tell us about you, and then I would love to hear a bit about Avora as well.
Sure. So I started life as a software developer. Then I worked my way up to senior developer, lead developer, architect, And then I met Ricky, who's the CEO of the company, about 7 years ago. And we were both working in e-commerce then, and we came across this problem that was really frustrating us. We had all of this information sitting in different silos, and we were looking for a way to consolidate it all into one place and have a unified view of everything that's happening in the business. And we tried a number of different solutions that were out there at the moment at that time, but none of them really did what we wanted to do. So being a techie, I was like, you know what, sod them, I can do that better myself, basically. And that's what I did, essentially. So I built the core of the platform myself initially over 6 months, many cups of coffee and sleepless nights. And then we got our first customer. And again, with that first 1 or 2 customers, it was all smoke and mirrors. We were just manically coding in the background, and they were like, why doesn't this work? Or what's happened here? So, oh, yeah, just refresh the page. Now it's all going to work fine. It was just a caching issue. I still use that to this day, and the people still haven't got wise about it yet. So.
The refresh is always the hidden one, really, isn't it? Exactly. So you've had all these coffees. You've built this company.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. So at the core of it, what we're trying to do with Avora is we're trying to help companies make more intelligent decisions faster by leveraging their data. And so that might sound a little bit vague. So what that really boils down to is many people have lots of information that they need to run their business. And they might want to say, what's our sales like? How many new customers have we gained? What's our conversion rate like if they run a website? And so these are core questions to how businesses can run. And so what we've tried to do is create a general purpose platform that provides those insights in a timely manner. So a part of that is visualization. So many people have probably used dashboards in the past. So you can just have a dashboard and get that information. But I guess where we're really unique, or where we're trying to really push the boundaries, is by how we leverage machine learning and artificial intelligence into that process. So as part of that, we're in what I'd like to class as a new category, which is augmented intelligence, which isn't just about showing pretty dashboards. It's about giving you the right information with the right context at the right time.
So if you could, that must, the versatility of the platform must allow you to probably work in some really interesting ways with some different clients. Could you share a little bit more about, I guess, what kind of those business challenges like, and what does a customer come to you and say? What are the kind of things that you help them with?
Sure. So yeah, we were, one thing that I'll tell you is that when we first started, we didn't actually know a lot about the data analytics space. So we were a bit naive, and we approached it all with gut instincts and first principles. But what that meant was that we created a more general purpose platform. We weren't specializing in a particular sector, because to us it seemed quite obvious that, everyone's going to have this problem regardless of their sector. And so what we did is we created a data ingestion module, so we can ingest data from any different data source. It might be a file, it might be an email, it might be a PDF. We can even do like image scanning, for example, and all the traditional stuff such as databases, APIs. We consolidate all the information into a central place, and then we provide easy-to-use reporting for business users. So that was one of the other key components, is that data analysts and data scientists, they're very hard to find.
Yeah.
They're like gold dust. I'm sure if there's any here tonight, I'd be very keen on talking to you. But yeah, so as a result, we were like, let's try and empower business users. And just to give you some insight into some of the use cases, so we work with a wide variety of companies, from logistics. We help a large US logistics company optimize the way they deliver parcels and the way the actual business runs. We help retailers help to maximize the way they stock their shelves and the way that they're getting deliveries, and to help forecast future demand. And also we do a lot around anomaly detection. So it's about seeing previous trends in sales or customer numbers, and then automatically informing them when there's a particular problem in a particular area. So that we use machine learning in that particular scenario as well.
Amazing. So you're a young company really solving big old problems, right? Big company issues across, lots of big sectors. And I know, you've got clients across sort of e-commerce, defense, telecoms, media, finance.
That's right. Yeah.
How do you compete? How do how do you, when you're going up into these, gigantic companies where probably the incumbent companies or those who are offering types of services which you're offering something better against, how do you position yourselves to allow that value to be seen and to kind of, be taken seriously by these big commerce?
Yeah, I mean, that has been one of the biggest challenges. And when we go up and we say we do analytics or machine learning or something, then they'll be like, oh, what about company X, Y, and Z? They do that same thing.
Yeah.
So it has been one of the biggest challenges, especially retrospectively. In the beginning, we had this core product and we were just kind of trying to go out there and hustle and sell it. But then as we've grown, we've come across these very large competitors. And I guess at the core of it is by leveraging our strong points, which the larger companies won't have. So it's about being agile. So the analogy I always like to use is that one of these big, well-funded companies, they're like an ocean liner, and whereas Avora is a bit more like a speedboat, basically. So what that fundamentally means is that we can change direction, or if we see a new technology coming along, or if there's a new area of demand that our customers are particularly interested in, we can, I wouldn't say pivot, but we can align ourselves with them a bit more closely than one of these big companies where there's multiple hierarchies of decision making, which really add a lot of inertia into the direction that these companies are going, whereas we can be a lot more agile and also respond to our customers. And we can bring customers along on our journey, and that's one of the big things that we do. And we can really address their needs, really understand their needs. And as an example, a customer can come to us and say, I've got this problem, and literally within 2 or 3 weeks, we can have a particular feature or enhancement deployed for them, which is not something you're going to get when you're going to one of these other companies that have got billions of dollars in funding.
Yeah. And I guess that really is a sort of a superpower as far as, for the client, because, having been on the other side of the fence and being the corporate buyer, one of the challenges is always, if you're spending these gigantic amounts of money and you're buying something which you believe is going to be fit for your business, but you're not 100%, until you start implementing and using and seeing how the sort of the kinks fall out, it's very difficult to sort of say. So being able to, I guess, work with company like yourself, where you can be flexible, you can be agile, you can reflect their needs, that must be really valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And it all comes back down to the holy grail of startups, which is product market fit.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things I've realized is that product market fit isn't just a goal that you reach. You don't just reach the summit and that's it, product market fit. Let's sack all the developers and we're good now, let's just run it like that. What actually happens is product market fit changes, customer needs change, the environment changes. So as a result of all these different things, it's not just product market fit, it's continually finding product market fit going forwards. And so that's where we can, again, leverage the agility and leverage the fact that I can have an idea on a Sunday night, call my head of engineering and my head of data science and hash out an idea and have it deployed on dev a week later, which is not something one of these larger companies can do potentially.
Thinking about that experience, thinking about Avora as a fast-growing company, what would you advise companies to do to be able to bake that agility into how they operate, and for that to be something which will remain with them as they scale? Or is that something which you yourselves are sort of figuring out and trying to sort of think about how to challenge?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that. So the first part, it's a little bit easier to do in the beginning when you've just got a team of 3 developers or something, for example. So I think the agility is there by default. You have an idea, you sketch it out, and then you build it, and off you go, kind of thing. The challenge that we face as we're getting bigger is how to retain that. And I think there's a number of different ways that we're trying to address that. Part of it comes down to culture and the kind of culture that you instill. And as a CTO, for me, it's about the engineering culture that I'm instilling as well. And so I'm always very mindful in terms of trying to keep each individual team fairly small, but also to try and have cross-fertilization between the different teams. But yeah, I think at the core of it, it's also about trying to keep things simple and keep things lean and not build massive documents of specs and requirements, and just to try and get the idea or the concept out there, test it, iterate on it, and then build on it like that, as opposed to trying to do a more traditional waterfall type approach.
Yeah. And I guess that point which you mentioned around, the hiring environment, and I know Janet mentioned sort of hiring as well. And it is the perpetual challenge, I think, isn't it? Not just for startups and scale-ups, but for any business, which is how do we feed talent into our business? How do we continue to grow? How do we continue to be competitive? And to do so within a competitive landscape where tech talent is at a premium, right?
Definitely.
Everyone needs good data scientists. Everyone needs good software developers and good technical marketers and product owners and all these different areas. What do you do? What does Avora do to to find those people, to make sure that those people feel supported, to make sure that you can get the best out of them and they get the best out of you?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And so we almost treat our hiring process the same way we treat trying to acquire new customers.
Okay.
And so I can cheat a little bit here, though, because I've never necessarily been that customer trying to buy an analytics solution, but I've been that developer looking for a job. So I look back many, many years ago when I was in that position, and I was looking for a job, and I think, okay, what would I want? What would I want to see? So you think about things like career progression, you think about clear goals, and you think about letting these engineers and data scientists and analysts be able to work on interesting problems, work in teams where they're surrounded by other people that are also very creative and imaginative, and yeah, just try and give them a sense of the kind of mission that you're trying to achieve, and I guess it's a little bit easier for us because we have got this big, hairy, audacious goal, and we're trying to move into this new space, so that kind of sells it part of the way. So if people are interested in that kind of thing, then yeah, we've got quite a compelling narrative around that.
Amazing, amazing. And I guess just as we wrap up, I think the same question I asked you, Janet. Who do you want to speak to in this room? What are you looking to do? Where is Avora sort of going directionally over the coming year?
Sure. So over the coming year, and I guess that links back to why we're in the scale-up program. So we've established a certain level of product market fit. We've got a sales machine going and a marketing machine going. And so now we're just really looking to ramp it all up. I think we've almost doubled in size over the last year. So we've really built out our sales and marketing team. So as we see more and more leads and sales coming through, it's about trying to keep up pace with that, with the engineering team, and just really help trying to mature the product, and also try and innovate and build new features. In terms of who I'd like to speak to tonight, pretty much anyone. I'm interested in speaking to all people here, hearing about their journey, hearing about where they are, and maybe if I can learn something from them, and if they can learn something from me, that would be great.
And of course, you are hiring.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Of course.
Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manja. And hopefully, already a little bit of a snapshot of some of the really interesting companies who we are really, genuinely delighted to be able to support, and who add a huge amount to our, value to our business as well. Next up, I have Max Sipos, who's the CTO at Causalens. Again, one of our scale-up companies. Max, welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks.
See, I don't have to do a dance this time, which is great. Thank you for joining, Max.
Yeah.
Lovely to see you here.
Thanks for having me here. Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. And I was saying to you earlier, I was having a chat with Darko, who's your CEO, earlier today as well, and just sounds like you've been up to some really exciting things. So tell us a little bit about you.
Sure.
And then tell us a little bit about Causalens.
Sure. Yeah. So when we so this is how we started the company.
Yeah.
I myself was a physicist. I was working in statistical mechanics, right? And statistical mechanics is about understanding sort of the how the world is behaving, right? Whether it's particles in a gas or the economy, it's about you can understand the itsy-bitsy rules of that drive the behavior, and then you can kind of extrapolate from those rules what's going to happen to the whole system, right? And what you realize about the world is that it's extremely complicated, right? No single person can really understand what's going on, right? You can read all these news, you can follow all these things, but there's too many of them for any human. And so Darko and I were both amazed and wondered, how do we understand this world better? Really that was kind of fundamental. And so we started this company in order to build this ability to understand the world and then also make an impact on the world. So by using this ability to understand the world, the businesses and NGOs and governments, they can all improve their processes, right? They can optimize, they can improve their bottom line, they can improve the environment, that sort of thing.
Amazing. And I remember when we met, and I'm an ex-quant researcher, I get very excited about the stuff that you folks do, because it's really sort of, putting little strings of information together in a way that, you wouldn't even be able to imagine, I guess. Can you even do something like that? How do you take so many factors into account?
Right.
How did you then go about, I guess, going from this idea of what you wanted to do to creating Causal End, and what was that journey like, and what are some of the challenges that you hit along the way as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started from a team of two, and what we realized very quickly is that we've built that to be able to solve this problem, right, we needed to understand essentially cause and effect, right? So this is a very complex problem, and really what we do is we attempt to predict the future, right? That's what we really try to do, and so to be able to do that, we need to understand causality. So what we've done is we've invested a hell of a lot into research. We've hired some of the smartest people. We are a very very academic environment. The problems we solve are very hard, and so we basically, what we've done until now is just kept investing in research and development.
Amazing. And I know that you have a very high quotient of PhDs, I think, within your business. So everyone's a doctor, all of these kind of things. Thinking about, I guess, this really sort of complicated thing that you're doing, and how does that get implemented into the business? What kind of businesses come to you? What are the challenges that they have, and then how do you use Causal End technology to help them solve those challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question, because really it's about what can you do with this, right? And I'll give you some real use cases. So for example, if you're a logistical company, right, being able to know what sort of cargo you will need to ship is really key to your business, because you may need to book airplanes or trucks, and you may need to schedule them, and so the ability to know how many of those to schedule really impacts your bottom line. It impacts the environment as well, and so it's extremely important. Another example of a use case is if you are, say a trading firm, and you need to be able to predict the volume of trading that's going to happen in the next 5 minutes or in the next day or so. So there's loads of essentially every in the economy, the data that really matters are time series, measurements of things over time, and everything. Most of the things that matter are in this time series form. So that's kind of what we specialize in.
Amazing. And I guess thinking about the ways that businesses then implement that, how do you even start those conversations with those clients around sort of identifying their need, and especially because it's such a versatile product that can work in lots of different scenarios and situations?
Right. Sure. Well, we tend to do we tend to follow a process whereby we do a free proof of concept with a client. We essentially show our customers, look, here's how we can help. We take their problem, or we take ideally something that they might even be trying to do themselves, and we show them how we do it better. I think that's always been our ethos. We're very scientific about what we do. We care a lot to show people that how it works and why it works, and so I think that's we identify quite clearly that there's some particular industries and verticals that have this problem, and we don't have that much trouble actually showing the value, because we can always tied down to something, a number, some scientific measure of why is it better, you know?
And I guess, in a way, you know, what you're offering is a little bit of a superpower to these companies, right?
Yeah.
And are you coming across instances where people don't even understand or haven't even thought about the prospect of being able to understand cause and effect better? You know?
Sure.
Is that something that you help them to understand? And you know, what's the value of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, to be able to really understand the world, right? You might potentially need hundreds of data scientists, maybe thousands. You know, you really cannot. For a lot of businesses, they cannot support that, right? So that's where we come in. We want to help those data scientists. You know, our product is a form of like a virtual data scientist, right? And it can fill this need for a business to be able to predict various functions within it, to forecast the economy, and to understand cause and effect, right? So I honestly believe that for a lot of businesses, that's really not possible, because that investment is simply, you know, impossible.
Amazing. So you have this super interesting product. You're developing some, you know, great commercial relationships. You're developing your pipelines. What can we do together? What would you like? You know, whether it's you know, Microsoft to help you with, or how are we able to support, and what are the kind of challenges that you're facing that, you know, we can help with?
Sure. Well, I think Microsoft is really interesting because of its you know, real devotion to sort of a business customer, right? In my view, so a lot of our customers are Microsoft customers as well. You know, we deploy on Windows, you know, technology, and on Azure as well. So I think there's a lot of kind of, you know, cross-pollination there. We've also really benefited from the program so far. We've learned a lot. You guys have a lot of workshops that have been very helpful. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I would also like to say that Microsoft Research does some really interesting work, especially having to do with interpretability of machine learning. And so there's been some interesting stuff that we've looked at that's come out of Microsoft, and we'd love to actually you know, interface more with people behind that research.
Amazing. And we love having you with us as well. And you know, you add a huge amount as far as, you know, the way that we can kind of support our other customers and stuff as well. And I guess paint me a picture of the future. Causa Lens in 2 years' time. What do you look like? Yeah.
Well, we're growing our team, but we are still very much devoted to research and to science. So we are, you know, in 2 years' time, I think we're going to be a much bigger team of scientists who genuinely just want to help, you know, make the world a better place. So I think largely it will be about that. Now, maybe I'm biased because I'm the CTO, so I'm talking about that aspect. Sure, there is going to be some marketing and business and all that.
Those little things. Yeah.
But you know, I think really we are. I would. You know, I think that we are a cutting edge, state of the art. You know, we are that right now, but you know, we keep pushing the research. You know,
amazing. And I guess just before we get on to the last question, any tips for any of the companies here, any people who are working at companies here, thinking about, you know, building complex deep tech companies, and you know, what you can do to sort of advise them on how to navigate that?
Sure, yeah. So I think for us, what has helped a lot was focus, right? We've always, as a company, we've been doing one thing, and it really worked really well for us. We can clearly tell our customers, look, this is what you're getting with us. We're the best in the world at this thing. And it's made our sales easier. It's also made our research and product development easier, right? So you know, so we've kind of decided on one thing we do, and so I always advise people to focus really, you know, on the one thing and sort of be the best at it in the world.
Amazing. And of course, the last question, which I asked Manjit as well as Janat, who do you want to speak to, and what are you looking for?
Sure. We love speaking to everyone, but in particular, we love speaking to data scientists in the room. So yeah, I'm here, happy to talk to everyone.
Amazing.
Cool.
Thank you very much, Max.
Thanks.
Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for joining. So we are on to the final segment of our evening here. One of my and actually it's not, I was going to say one of my favorite people in the Cloud Advocate team, but actually all of the Cloud Advocate team are absolutely awesome. I wouldn't be able to pick a favorite, but has flown in today, especially as far as our Ignite the Tour event as well. So Ruth Yakubu, who's one of our Cloud Advocates at Microsoft. And Ruth, where are you based? I'm trying to remember now. I know this is in the States. New York, amazing New York. And you're going to be taking us through how to bring your machine learning models to market faster and to scale. So please, a very, very warm welcome up to the stage, Ruth.
Awesome. Thank you, Amali. We're going to have the music thing happening now.
Like we don't get a soundtrack.
Awesome. So my name is Simona, and I'll have the privilege and honor to interview Ruth this evening and talk a bit about machine learning. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. I'm really, really excited about all the conversations that are happening, and especially all the fireside chats here. They've been super informative. So Ruth, before we actually get started, Amali has already mentioned a few things about you, but would you mind just going through some of the things that you're currently working on and some of the stuff that you've done in the past?
Okay. So, like Amali mentioned, my name is Ruth Yakubu, and I'm a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft. We have different verticals within our team. Some are focused on academic, open source, but my team specializes or focuses on startup. That's Simona's my boss, actually. So basically, what I do for the most part is work with the accelerators, like in New York. One that I can think of is Techstars, and multiple other ones around the country. So basically what I do is I offer office hours. So that's their time for the developers to meet with me hand in hand, and they get 20 minutes, tell me what your pain points are, and depending on, and they know the art specialty before we come to talk to them. So they're asking specific questions that you can answer. So it's not like you ask questions and I'm like, say what again? That sort of thing. Then I also offer workshops, hands-on workshops, because there's one thing about telling people, oh, you can do this, you can do that, and whatnot. There's so much excitement into actually hands-on creating something and learning why did I create this and how can I apply it to something else. So I enjoy doing those workshops with incubators and accelerators. Then another portion of our job is also doing community events like this, and also speaking at public events. Actually, tomorrow I'll be speaking at Ignite at 9 o'clock in the morning. So just in case you see me running, don't judge me. I need to rehearse and also go to sleep. In terms of what I've done in the past, I had a startup back when I was in Los Angeles called Posh Beauty. So it was basically an online beauty network. And what we did was appointment booking for the beauty industry. And we're one of the pioneers that did that before everybody and their dog decided to join the club. Another thing that our company did was we had blogs where we write the latest trends, the must-haves, and whatnot. Living in LA, you have access to all the celebrity stylists and whatnot. So let's say Anne Hathaway is hosting the Oscars. Who's doing her hair? who's doing her makeup. Not that you guys care, but our audience care about that. So we'll go with our film crew and interview that. And that's for the generation, the millennials that loved stuff like that. Then, of course, you have like the fashion week and you talk to the designers. So we did a lot of things, but the whole goal was, okay, how can we cater to the beauty industry? Not just provide an app for people booking their appointments, but there's something about if you look good, it exudes confidence. It gives you that superpowerness that I can conquer all sort of thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Ruth. And as you can all see, Ruth is extremely impressive. And apart from being a founder and also from like speaker and teaching workshops, Ruth has a deep technical expertise as well. And we've had quite a bit of conversations around artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I know, Ruth, you're also working with some of the Microsoft customers. And I was wondering, like, based on your experience, what are some of the reasons why you would think that people in this room and generally organizations should look into adopting AI into their products?
Yeah, that's a very good question because there are, in technology, there are a lot of buzz that come and go. And especially with AI, some people just start a company and say, we're an AI company and it has nothing to do with AI, just to get funding and whatnot. Or, you know, it's just a buzzword that is thrown out there and some people think it's not relevant. But just like back in the days where people had businesses, people were advised, you need a website. If you need to be relevant, if you're talking to somebody, if they need to take you seriously, they're going to ask you, what's your website? And when they go check you out, they're going to do business with you. Same as AI. So with AI, talking to startups, it just blows my mind, all the brilliant ideas that they come to life. Recently, I was looking at IDC's stats. That's International Data Corporation. And they're the ones that look at the future trends in technology. And they mentioned that by 2025, 95%, well, 2025, that's in 5 years, but 95% of the businesses that are going to be out there are going to be using digital agents. That's like conversational bots. And this is true when you look at things like Alexa, Cortana. There are a lot of websites out there. Like for some of us that are night owl, you just remember, oh, I had this order and whatnot. I need to check, and it could be like 3 o'clock in the morning, but luckily there's a chat out there, chatbot out there that you can have a conversation with, and they'll provide you answers. And even dealing with a lot of enterprises right now, they're pursuing the bot route in terms of customer service, and especially for startups. Even if you have a lot of funds out there, you need to invest into, a lot of people are asking, they're looking to build their teams, they're looking to enrich their technology, but how many people are actually going to have a whole village on the phone handling customer service? When it comes to bot, it sounds very complex, but when you see how it's actually implemented, it's very simple. Stuff like Q&A, frequently asked questions. You can easily plug it in, and it's not just somebody going to a page and reading something. You can have a friendly bot either communicate with the user via chat, or you can have it, vocally communicate, you ask questions, and they give you answers back. So you just save money in terms of hiring a whole workforce or outsourcing to another company to handle your customer service. So that's that. The next area that they showed a trend is currently about more than 75% of apps out there have AI infused. Why is that? Because applications are becoming more smart, intuitive, and they're meant to actually provide customization and loyalty, customer loyalty, and engagement with the clients. So if you have some kind of AI infused in your application, which a lot of developers and businesses out there are using, it's going to be to your advantage, because guess what? Everybody else is doing it. Why are you missing out? That sort of thing. And an example that I can give is, let's say you're a retail firm and you have like promotions going on. You can personalize people's shopping experience, and that increase loyalty and brand awareness, that sort of thing. Then lastly, a lot of people, when they think of AI, they think, okay, my business should incorporate AI just for the forward customer-facing portion. But there's a lot of internal insights that you can gather. You're getting a lot of data coming in. You need to know about how people view your product. There's a lot of social chatter out there that you can gather and use stuff like text analysis to figure out, are they talking about something positive, negative, that sort of thing. So you can gauge all of that. And industries that are using this very prevalent is, let's say, the financial industry. They use it for risk analysis, fraud detection, and also predicting what people should invest in. I don't know if that's legal, but you didn't hear me say that. Then with manufacturing, that's another area that they're using it a lot. Let's say there's in a manufacturing type of system, there's an oil spill. You have cameras out there that can easily alert somebody to come and mitigate that situation because that's a hazard, that sort of thing. So AI is everywhere and it's very useful. It's up to you as a company to figure out how can I incorporate it. You don't just to use it, but use it because given these stats of what the future is coming, you cannot afford to be left behind.
Awesome. So I guess at this point, all of us will not stay for drinks anymore. We're just going to go make sure that we have all of that machine learning and artificial intelligence knowledge, right? We're all convinced.
Just have a sip. Just have a sip before you run.
But I'm wondering, Ruth, like you made all the right cases here for everyone to incorporate AI into their application, but I'm sure that things are not as easy and straightforward. So are there any challenges that you'd expect people to face as they onboard this new journey?
Yeah, so talking to a lot of startup, one of the challenges they face is talent. There are not a lot of experts out there that understand how to build some of these intelligent models. Data scientists are probably not cheap for a startup unless you have the right connections. So that's one hindrance. Another hindrance is I see a lot of, when I go to conference, you see like a cool demo. Yes, we did this with deep learning or this AI implementation. They show you the finished product. But they did not tell you that 70% of the time they spent, they had massive data. You have to cleanse that data depending on what your business is. Because there's a saying, garbage in, garbage out. That's number one. There's another portion. It's called machine learning. It's actually an experiment you're running. So you may know that, okay, there are different categories within machine learning. I'm dealing with, let's say, classification or regression. That's easy, right? No. Under just classification, why are there 20 different algorithms out there? And when you're running all of that, one can give you a more optimum outcome than another. So as you're writing all of this, one thing is, it may take hours, 8 hours, before you get an output. Then after that 8 hours, your model that you just created is only 30% accurate. And this is what a lot of data scientists don't tell you that we do. There's a desk that we all have that we crawl under and cry, then wipe our tears and come in and be like, oh yeah, we're good. Yeah, try that, but we just need to optimize it. That sort of thing. Then guess what? You're going to the next algorithm, or you're using the same algorithm, but there's different tuning settings that you need to check to make sure you have the right algorithm that is actually precise for you to actually put it out there for the world. So I'll say in summary, being able to push your models out there in a timely fashion is a challenge for startups. It's not like, okay, we're not working on it, but it's just the amount of time it involves in getting a good model for your business.
I'll talk about getting us thrilled about this new adventure. I wonder if there's still some tips, like quick tips that you would want to share with everyone just to overcome these challenges. Where would you send people in the room to just get started?
Yeah, so to be honest, my motto is never be a follower, always be a leader. If you're gonna be an entrepreneur, know your product and stay true to it. But you have an industry. So don't be like an ostrich where you stick your head in the sand and you're just in silo for your business. Understand what others are doing in your industry in terms of AI, because what is that called? Competition. Whether you have a store that's a bakery, guess what? That bakery has competition too. So you need to be aware of what your competition is and also the AI trends in that industry, and keep up to date and figure out what can you leverage for your business in terms of AI and implement it, but also stand out in terms of when you launch and have an awesome product like all of you guys already do.
That's awesome, Ruth. I'll keep the same spirit as Amali did, and just quickly wrap up with the question, like, looking at everyone here, what would you want to talk about? What do you want people to come to you to talk about? And then what are you looking forward to?
For me, to be honest, I deal with a lot of startup. My thing is, don't reinvent the wheel. Dealing with the cloud, there are a lot of things that are already done that you can leverage. Then there's the last speaker talked about automated machine learning. That's very powerful. You can limit the amount of time you do crying under the table. So look into auto machine learning. It's offered by a lot of startups. A lot of cloud providers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening, and thank you everyone for listening in. I think I'm gonna hand over to Adam, who's gonna close the evening, or Amali, who might be around here. But yeah, thank you so much for listening.
So once again, huge thank you to all of our speakers tonight, and thank you all for coming. We're going to keep everything going. We've got the alcohol, we've got soft drinks, we've got macarons, which have just appeared as well at the back of the room, plenty of snacks as well. So come and join us in the networking area at the back, and stay with us. We've got the next couple of hours. Thanks very much.